Alrighty then. Okay, we'll get started where we left off last time. And good morning to everyone. So what did we look on Thursday as a quick recap? We started looking at wireframing and why wireframing is important. So why do we do wireframing? Well, when you get started into a project and you start, you maybe have your project, your product brief, what you want to do, maybe some ideas, and then you land on your design and you want to start designing something and start thinking about the way it's going to work. And you open up Figma or any design tool, and then you open up to something like this, right? That can be super intimidating. You might have a lot of things that you have to consider. Well, one, what's it going to look like? What's the structure of our product going to be? What's the layout going to be like? And if we start designing in high fidelity right away, we might get caught up maybe spending, I don't know, lots of time trying to just design the perfect button for our design, debating those things. And really, sure, yeah, we can get into pixel perfection for our buttons and all that good stuff. Again, if we go back to the first class where I mentioned, design is about two things. It's not also just the way it works, but also, it's not just the way it looks, it's also the way it works. So form and function. So that's what design is a big part. And so wireframing allows us to think about that function. How is it going to work? And allows us to think of a lot of ideas, a lot of divergent ideas. There's no bad ideas in the early stages. You just get all the ideas out there because one idea may lead to another and so on and so on. And you can always converge. You can always converge on your ideas. And we did a little bit of that. Again, we just kind of simulated what that would look like. But, we know the answer to the way that Spotify looks like and so on. But even just by us having a look at them, it's like, oh, that just feels odd. Why does it feel odd? Maybe this is a new pattern of navigating a product. So maybe other people would find that odd as well, and maybe it would make it harder to use. Maybe there's double functionality here that we want. We want a play button, a player, but then there's also a play button when it comes to a playlist or an album. How does that work? How do we make sure that is clear for the user? And then when you start thinking about, okay, we're happy with the general layout, and then you can start thinking, look, how can we make this a little bit more interesting? And we started working out with some visual effects for this like cool blurred transition here for our album artwork. So if you're ever stuck, again, wireframing is a good way to start. Just again, you're not really focused on the way it's going to look. You're just like, what is a general layout that I want? What feels right? Or what is something interesting I want to continue to pursue further? Anyone have any questions about wireframing since we chatted, or yeah, any questions at all? Again, it might not feel like the most fun thing to do, right? Because it's like we want to design some cool stuff, right? We want to make it look awesome. And there's always plenty of time for that. And doing just some light wireframing even can help a long way in just helping you get those thoughts out. So you can design the perfect experience. We don't want to waste hours and hours and hours and trying to perfect the perfect button with a perfect border radius. And I've seen people spend weeks on a button and just a border radius and debating that, and then really, fraction of the time given to the way it will actually work. How can we actually improve the user flow for the user to solve their problem better than before? So something I highly encourage you to do, and it's pretty easy to do. So I feel like also in the past couple of classes, I've kind of been like flying through a lot of that stuff. So today I'm going to try to slow it down a bit so that we can practice this together and try it for ourselves. So I'll try to make it so that you can try to follow along and try some other techniques as well. For example, we saw like those selection tools, subtract, union, and all that stuff when we started making our own icons as well. So all these things will lead to, us knowing the product, Figma itself a little bit more, and then leveraging the tool to build designs that you want. Because you're not always going to find everything out in the community. Templates are a great head start to your design work. But sometimes you have to make your own stuff. And so I think the selection tool is one of those things where you can make your own icons and make them unique for yourselves and your product. So last time, what we ended up leaving with is we created the desktop version and a mobile version. So we can start, it's kind of easy to do this, much easier to do like that recipe book that we did, recipe design that we did, because it was just, it's not real. It's not really real. We're just trying to make the common elements on a different viewport, in this case, mobile. So that was very easy to do. We weren't too concerned about making it pixel perfect and getting all the layout in there, all that stuff. It just made it so much easier. But there's something else, again, that wireframing is really good for. So I take these two and bring them down here. So go back to my reference file so you can see what I'm talking about. What's really cool about the Spotify design, zoom in a bit more, is that every single viewport has something unique about it. And they try to optimize for different things. Content takes priority depending on your viewport. So let's just look at the main one here in the middle, which is desktop. This is most likely where you're going to have the most amount of screen real estate, and you can do, you can just add a lot of extra additional content to your design. It's really one of the easiest viewports to design for, because you can have a full menu on the left. So the menu is not hidden. People understand how to navigate. You can have lots of information about the playlist or in any product that you're designing. There's tons of room there. You can have multi-column layout. Again, going back to that recipe design. You can have a column for your ingredients and then a whole other column for all the instructions. It's all pretty easy. And then it gets difficult because on mobile, what content is the most important? Those are some of the questions we're asking us. What is the most important functionality that we need? Menus get hidden. Sometimes we lean on icons a lot for navigation. If we want to learn more, get more details about something, we kind of step into it. Is it really clear on how to navigate and go back? And so that gets kind of difficult. And then there are stages in between, which I think is really interesting in the way that Spotify does it here. Is, this one over here on the left, very far left, is almost like an iPad size. So if you shrink it down, what's interesting is they make a choice. Right here, they have navigation to go backwards and forwards, an upgrade button. But in here, this gets kind of condensed a bit more. There is only a back button. When we look at the upgrade button, that has gone away. And if we look at the avatar, they take away the name. So it's just the icon. So you could argue there's still plenty of room to do that, but then there's a balance. On a smaller viewport, there is just maybe way too much on screen at the exact same time. Everything feels crowded, and if it feels crowded, it's hard to find your way around your product. I think they do a really nice way of balancing that here as they move through the different viewports. And you get to mobile, and again, that is completely different once again. And there are some established patterns, again, that they're using, for example, on mobile. So let's just go back. I'm going to take these as my reference. I don't have to keep coming back and referencing them, but we can do the same here. So I'm going to take this, move them over here. And this one over here, again, we're looking for iPad, so you could go get your tablet frame, but you could also just make your own. Hit F on your keyboard, click and drag, and you can just make something a rough size of like 940 pixels wide. Just the idea here is you have something that is more narrow. And so in this one, we can just make our own navigation. We can go in here, by 40, again, doesn't need to be perfect, but we're just trying to illustrate the point and change the colors. I pick your tool to select this color. If you always forget what hex color it is, you can just do the eyedropper tool there. And then we'll do kind of the next button. So let's try this one out. So we are going to not rectangle, and it was 40. And you can just, again, divide your height. It gives you the perfect pill shape look. All right, now we are going to put an upgrade in here for our text. What is something I can do to this button so that it scales and it works better for my designs? You want to know what I should do here? Because I'm going to have to reuse this button for my name, my avatar name. Account name. What could I do to this button? Yeah, I'm gonna make it a component. Good, yeah. What else could I do? Because right now, I do this and I put in my name. The text kind of starts off to the left. There's extra more spacing here, even if I put it to the center. Doesn't have equal spacing on the left and the right, top or bottom. So what can I do? Before making a component. That's the magic word, auto layout. So if I go Shift A or right click, add auto layout, what this does, again, if we look at our layers panel here, that rectangle becomes a frame. I'm taking a screenshot so you can all see it a bit better. Becomes a frame, and then my text is in there. Now, what this allows me to do is I can control my padding over here on the right. So spacing top and bottom, maybe I want 6 pixels top and bottom, spacing 8 on the sides, and then maybe, yeah, 40 is probably fine. There you go. Now I can also make this into a component. The whole entire wire. I had made the entire frame a component, so we don't want that. We would component, duplicate, and our text now aligns nicely. It's equal padding. That works out good. If we look at this one, there is an icon that we can use, and then they drop down. So that little drop down is called the chevron. I never heard that term. Never heard of that term in my entire life. So I was a designer, and I'm just going to turn this upside down. This can probably be just not as tall, just the way that chevron looks. We're just making our own icon by just getting a look and feel for the way it looks. Now, the cool thing about auto layout is that I can come in here. I can drop new elements inside my auto layout. Now, this one, I am trying to add a new component into this. It's not working. Why is that not working? Well, this is a subcomponent of the main one. You can't add new content unless you add it to the main component. And then it will add it to the next one. So this one, you can see here, it's kind of hard to see just because the button is blue and the highlight is blue. So I'll just change it to something much lighter. I'm going to click and drag this icon. Yeah, I don't know if it's probably hard to see, but it's giving me a hint of where I will be dropping this brand new element in here. And I will just leave it at that. Now I have both of these here. And you might be saying, okay, well, we don't need this drop down here. Well, this is our main component, so we just create a subcomponent of that. And if we want to, we can hide individually what elements within a component we do want to have. So they're all the same color, but some of them show and hide different elements within it. So it just makes your designs even more scalable because it's the one button where we can add things like chevron, drop down, maybe show an icon or not. Now the next one was an avatar. Again, I just speed things up here. I'm just going to add another and just pretend this is a placeholder for an icon. You can see it adds it in nicely to all of those. But in this one, I don't want the avatar. So if I had that icon, I can just close it. That's fine. And I'm left with this, which is pretty good. I want to modify some things, space between my elements. Maybe I do want 16 pixels, but I don't want that much spanning from left and right. It makes it super easy. I can just do stuff like that. Reduce the padding. There we go. So these are buttons, they're flexible. I can add and remove icons if I want. So now, how does that help me when I go to the next one? Well, again, let's create those two quick icons for the left and the right. So a tool you've never seen before, pen tool. What is the pen tool? The pen tool is probably the most difficult tool on the planet to use. Anyways, I find it difficult to use, and it's something you won't use often. But what is it? Well, the pen tool allows you to draw very unique shapes. So if I just and you build those shapes by setting anchors. Like if you've seen anchors in a rectangle, this is kind of making your own. So I can go in here and I can click here, and I can click and create another anchor. You can see this kind of follows me, my cursor. I can click, and then as I click and drag, I can make kind of my own curve if I want to. And then I can click and drag again to create another shape if I want. So in this case, I'm creating almost like some sort of graph. And now I've connected and come back to the initial anchor. When I've done that, I can do other things, just like a regular shape like before. I can create a cool gradient if this is like some sort of graph. It still works the same as the other ones. Now, a pen tool is useful for other things as well, like creating like unique icons. For example, we just want to create those arrows that go back and forth, so it can be much, much simpler. And we'll talk about the pen tool later, but just give me an idea of what it is. With the pen tool, hit P on your keyboard. If you click, create 3 anchors and make them look like an arrow. You even get some nice help with alignment there from Figma. There is our anchor. Now, we don't need to connect this back. Instead, we can just go and click done or hit escape on our keyboard. And there is our unique icon. Now, if you've been playing around with Figma, sometimes you've probably run into that and say, okay, there's something wrong. I try to click on the element that I had and something's changed. For example, if you're looking to change to fill or something like that, sometimes you can double click on a element. You keep clicking and then something changes and it looks like this. Any one of you run into that? If you look at your menu and it's completely changed, you're just trying to change the color, but then see this anchor here? It works like a pen tool. And you take that anchor and move it and drag. Everything's flexible. So every element that you interact with in Figma is really a vector graphic, and they all have anchors. So even a circle, like a circle. And I double click it a bunch of times, and if you ever get into this mode and you're trying to move something and you make your circle look like that, and like, okay, what just happened? It's really anchors that you are working and manipulating. Now, you might also have an anchor, and then you might see all these other extra squiggly bits here. What are those things? Well, you can manipulate each angle if you want as well by just moving these. You don't have to move your anchor every single time. If you ever find yourself in that mode and you didn't mean to do it, all you have to do is just hit escape. It'll take you back to the menu you're familiar with. But all it is, every single layer on your design, besides an image, you can go like an extra step further and manipulate it at the anchor level. So just a little bit of background there. But for us, we just want to create this little kind of back arrow chevron type look as well. The nice thing about this is, again, we're just seeing what anchor points are. So if we want to change this, maybe make it a little bit taller, you can certainly do that and still manipulate it. Each anchor is, you can completely change it if you want. It's completely infinitely flexible in terms of what you want to do there. And again, easy to change afterwards if you did want to change it. And there we go. I just created that. Now, these corners are a little bit too harsh. You can just go in here and add some rounded ends to them. And there you go. Just like anything else, you can also add a border radius. This is still kind of sharp. You can add 2 border radius. Now it's a little bit more rounded. Now, if you didn't want to do that and you wanted to make it rounded yourself with your own specific, border radius, this is when the pen tool is really cool and really good for. Double click on it a bunch of times, and now you get these arrows with these anchors. Go to your tool on the left, click and drag, and now you have these like other sub anchors here to let you manipulate that and create your own rounded corners as well. So we're getting pretty technical into the tool, but if you're running into it and wondering what is that, I've never seen it before. It's just a pen tool, anchors, everything in Figma has one, and that's just what that is. And you don't really need to use it if you don't want to, but it's there if you did. For us, we just want to create this simple icon, and you can use 3 anchors to do that. I'll do it again so you can kind of see the way it works, because it was kind of maybe too fast. Again, you select your pen tool, click a second one, click a third one. Figma helps us with the alignment, and click done if we want, and just change the color like anything else. And you can also increase this in size if you want, and spacing, just like any other element on your design. There you go. Pretty straightforward, hopefully. At least you know what it is now. Okay, so again, it's not perfect. Again, we're not looking for perfect right now, but just see how that works. And now we're going to move this over to our next design. So I'm going to select these layers. I'm just going to move them right over here. An easy thing to do. There we go. And then we'll just resize them. That was not an easy way. Okay, I'll do that again so you can kind of see what happened. What do you think happened here? I'm trying to resize my layers, but they all got squished. Has this happened to you and you're wondering kind of what happened? Even the text is a little bit odd there as well. Happened to anyone? Well, essentially, these are a group of layers. And as we go and try to move them over here, what's happening is we're just saying resize. And it's not really working because it's just a group. It doesn't know how to function within that. So it just doesn't look at these layers and trying to keep them to that perfect ratio. So this is somewhere where you kind of manually need to resize one element at a time. So the background, resize it, because I don't want to manipulate the other elements within here. Select these and move them in a bit further and move in through this side. Just distorts the images too much, and sometimes you do have to rework the sizing of some things like our timeline scrubber. And just move them a little bit more in the middle to give us more space to kind of bring this in. So there's some manual changes that you will need to make, and some alignment changes you will need to make as you do this. But again, way more efficient than doing this on like a high fidelity design. Imagine all your colors you would have to change. This is still not in the middle, so one thing you can do is this thing in the background. You can go and lock it, so that way I can select these layers, move them more to the middle without manipulating this layer in the background. All right, so now to go and add that menu, I do not need this arrow that goes forwards. I just need this one here. I'm going to take this icon and I'll just move it over there. And now I'm going to take my avatar button and paste it in here. I'll move it over here. Now, this is very easy. I don't really need to manipulate any layers. I don't need to really do much here. All I need to do is hide the chevron and hide the text, and that gives us our button. Now we have a few things here that we do want to change because it's not perfectly circle like we had before. You can use your auto layout tools here to change that to make it a perfect circle. Another padding change, and there we go. So we would quickly, still using the exact same button, I can manipulate it to make it look the way we want. And then the rest is pretty straightforward. Just moving over the same elements we had from before. But you can see as we're moving through our viewports, content is changing and adapting to the screen size. Sometimes we may have space to add more stuff, to keep the buttons, to do all that stuff. Think about the user, think about that viewport, that device that someone may be using. Is it too much for that limited space? Again, on desktop, imagine, yeah, we can have like multiple apps running at the exact same time and it feels okay. On a smaller device, probably not. Think about reducing the amount of things you have on screen. Like I've said before, every single element on the screen on your product, our brain is registering that and does subconsciously at least pick it up. And either there's too much to try to keep, track of, and if so, then it just makes it way harder to use, and people it's just something about it. It's like, no, this doesn't feel right. Find it difficult to use. And this is because your brain's trying to process all the possible things that your product can do. So the medium does make a big difference. Cool. Did anyone have a chance to try this this design technique with a blurring effect? And if so, any questions, or maybe you want to share your screen and show us a picture, an album cover that you did? I always like it when people share these because they kind of pick their own. Some people even make them realistic as possible. So some people are like, oh, I love this band. I went and found their album cover and I turned it into an actual, design in Figma. Anyone do that? Did anyone have a chance to try this? So I feel like this is a pretty simple exercise to do. And if you haven't tried it, it's one of the good ones to try on your own. Yeah, pretty straightforward. Okay, cool. How about we do this? How about let's take like 10, 15 minutes. You all go ahead and try it yourself. And then we'll see if anyone is wants to share. Because I would love to see, because albums, I think it's so cool to kind of see all the color combinations that you can make. So let's just take 10 minutes to make sure we have enough time to practice. So essentially what we're doing here, in the create a frame. All right, in the create a frame, iPhone 14 if you want. Again, you can create your own rectangle, believe it or not. Same size. And then we're going to go to our plugins, Unsplash, or maybe have your own image for the album. Maybe you can Google it and get it. And pick something colorful, or again, anything you want. And then we're going to create another rectangle when we take, or almost square in this case. We will take that and click again, and it's selected, our own image. Now, another rectangle right on top of this one. We want to do a couple of things here. We are going to add a gradient. Colors are black. We'll flip the colors backwards because we want it to kind of fade out towards the bottom. We'll add an effect. Background blur. Background blur, we want to increase that to around 30. We really want to blur out. We don't really want to pick out any details. So I think maybe somewhere close as 80 for this one. And then we place this on top. And there we go. Remember also I said you can even make this a little bit better with this gradient. You can have it match the colors of the photo. So black is just kind of, it still works, but if you want to, maybe there's like a nice, maybe kind of bluish color there that we can maybe take from this color. That, and take the next one and kind of reduce the opacity there like that. All right. try your own for your own design. And if you created this play button, you just pop it right back in there. So give you all 10 minutes, 15 minutes to try this on your own. And we'll see if anyone's willing to share. It'll be really cool to see what you come up with. So try this out on your own over the next 10, 15 minutes. And if you have any questions, just unmute or drop a question in chat. I'll be right here. I just saw your chat there. Yeah, I added you earlier today. So it should be there. Sometimes it has taken a day or so for it to take effect. Add you to the chat as well. And multiple ways of doing it. Okay. So I've added multiple ways to add you there. So hopefully it shows up within the next 24 hours. So if it still doesn't show up by Thursday, let me know. You're welcome. Yeah, sorry, it's buggy. You think adding people to a team channel would be a little bit simpler. But, yeah. Teams. Hey, how's everyone else doing? Let's give ourselves another 5 minutes. Cool. How'd y'all make out? Any questions? Anything unclear? Anyone want to share? Oh, nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing the colors in that. Really, really cool. See that you made your own icon there as well, which is awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So cool to see. Really nice. That blurring effect, you'll see a lot of companies use it now. Okay, awesome. Another good one. That's great. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I love that color. You can see like the subtle nature of the background there coming through, which is good. See that I think your gradient, you start with the darkest color at the top to the bottom. So that's another technique you could do as well. And the one I was using was lighter color top, darker gradient in the bottom. But yeah, another good way of doing it. Very cool. Anyone else want to share? Or do you have any questions about this or things you like about this technique or things that you don't? Great. Happy to hear. That's good. Okay, trying to figure out how to screenshot share. You can also share your screen if you want, if it's easier. Thank you. I'll have the ability to do that. On screen share, if you're on a Mac, Command Shift 4 is the way to do it. Don't know what it is on the PC anymore. While we wait for you to share there, again, the thing about this technique, it's so simple, right? But yeah, it can be so dynamic and it can help in so many ways. And it also puts a lot of things that we've been working on and looking at into practice. Again, we're using plugins for this, so that you can bring in an image, resizing an image, working with different frames, building your own icons, getting comfortable with that, learning the tools, understanding what all the toggles and switches are, like for the blurring effect and so on. Yeah. So in chat it says, I like how it unifies the entire design without the user really realizing how. Very subtle. Yeah, to see these subtle things that just really make a design really special. Command Shift Command 5 on the Mac. Yep. Yeah. So I think design, can be very subtle. So I think in design it's very easy to add more and more and more and more, and then it's hard to kind of take away. And this is one of the, I think it's just a nice balance of trying to do something special and unique while also trying to further this effect. Apple TV does this a lot too. I just kind of noticed that over the weekend they take the image and then they kind of blur in the back. It's just this nice feeling, but it's very subtle. The colors just kind of come through, but it's not kind of in your face. It's all again happening subconscious. Just special care was kind of taken. But okay. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. Got the screenshot worked out. Nice. I like that one too. Again, it says there's even text here, which make it difficult to read text and be kind of in front of that, but with that blurring effect, nice level of blur there, so that it kind of fades in back when we kind of connect both together. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Very, very cool. Nice. I like it. Now, for a second there with the screenshot, it almost looked like like one of these old film strips for cameras with the way I saw the frame name there, which is cool. Nice. Thanks for sharing. Very cool. Like that a lot. It's awesome. Yeah, I love those colors. That sounds good. Yeah, I love those colors and on all the images. Again, such a universal technique that can be applied to, again, almost anything. You know, and design still looks great. So it's good to kind of see that this technique does work by seeing all yours. So thank you so much for sharing. I know that can be maybe a little bit of anxiety or pressure to share and, you know, see what other people would say. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think it's awesome. So thank you for doing that. And also all your classmates see what you're working on. And yeah, and I always find it interesting of the images that people share. I've never yet to see, while I've done this, same image being used twice. Because again, what I love about this, you're all super creative. You have your own eye for something that you enjoy, and you try it. And then, yeah, I always love seeing the images that you all pick. So thanks for sharing that. Now, again, I love seeing the color combinations because I think that this blurring effect, it's amazing how much you just get a different view of something new when you blur an image like that. Versus if we're just kind of in the gradient tool, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just going to pick these two colors and so on. But, you know, blurring out an image, you just get something unique, I think, every single time, which I always love to see. It always feels new and fresh. Now, as you can imagine, when we take this one here to do the same effect, it's really the same thing here. It's just very simple. So I'm just going to take all these things out. I don't need the stroke anymore. So you can see how quickly it is to kind of take something we were working on and make it look realistic. So here's that. You know, just even changing the typeface sometimes is just completely changes your design. And again, I'll do this one. I don't even know what text I chose in the background. Enter and reduce the font size. And same thing in here. Sure, again, your wireframing won't, you know, go completely. You know, it's still useful. It still won't go completely to waste. Again, just changing very few subtle things, and boom, changing it to black, changing this to more of a gray, and I'm going to lock this layer so I can go and select all these things and go to my selection colors. You'll see them right there. I'm going to type in 1F and click tab, and it changes all the colors there for me. Look, I'm going to unlock it because I don't want that border radius. And then I am going to go and create that album cover, plugins, Unsplash, let it load up. Now this playlist kind of color is kind of like this bluish color, so I'm just typing blue and see what I get there. See if I get something that's similar in color. This one over here looks kind of like that, and it's abstract, so that's good enough. And I am just simply also, I'm going to change all these to like a lighter gray color, just so it doesn't look like it's sticking out too much. I'm going to go to my wireframe here, and I'm also going to go and change out the color a little bit as well. And all of these things are kind of blue, which is kind of hurting the look and feel, but I'm just going to change them all to white. And again, very easy to change, even if you're going and selecting across text and other elements. You go to your selection colors, just type in F, and it will just change all those for you. Even the strokes, like that. All right, and this one here, same thing. Get rid of that. Change them to like a gray. Quickly changing all these things out fairly quickly and fast. Go change this. What color is this? The wrong thing. Make these almost like a grayish color. This is good enough for now. I just want to take this one, duplicate, and I'm just going to increase the size of this all the way back here. Make it the whole background. Again, to make this the most background layer there is, hard bracket sends it to the back. And now I am going to add another layer, which is going to be that blur effect. So I'm going to move this all the way to the bottom of my layers panel. Oh, where'd it go? There we go. Move it on top. And let's just change out those colors again. Flip them. I can flip the colors by just flipping these picture thumbnails like that. Go to effects, and we are going to go background blur. I think I had like 80, I think. What did you all put in yours? And there is that. And then one thing you'll notice about the actual design that's done in, and this is almost more of a another rectangle there. Into 50, okay, cool. So I'm going to put another rectangle right there because it'll make it easier to read that text that we have. Move this all the way into the bottom layers there. Okay, I think that's it. Black. And just reduce the opacity just a little bit like that. I'm not going to spend too much time going and getting it exactly like it. I think that pretty much changes it to kind of what we had. Again, this is just going to be menus, so just kind of makes it stick out a bit too much. And this one here, what is the color for this bottom one for the player? It's just more of a soft gray color. Like that. And yeah, I mean, it could be refined a little bit better, but took my wireframe and yeah, that's something pretty close pretty quickly. Again, the same elements, just changing out the colors. Black, cool blur effect. And yeah, you can see how quickly you could do this for desktop as well. Pretty neat, really, isn't it? That's that. Wireframing, just again, explore a lot of different ideas. You're starting to make your own icons. You're doing advanced design techniques, which is really, really cool. Now, I think I lost my next reference file, but I'll show you how. Okay, here it is. This is what I was looking for. With 6 minutes to go, I'll show you something really cool. This was the Figma, the Spotify homepage for a little while. I think they kind of still use it in some ways. But if you look, this is their this was their website. And I was fascinated by this because again, I look at a design, I'm like, oh, how do they make it? You know, I was trying to figure out how to do it. This is one of those things where it's so simple yet so dynamic in many ways. I just really love the way it looked. It's like simple shapes, awesome color. I'll show you how easy it is to make it. Like, how do you even make this shape? You know, and for a second I was like, how do I even do that? But then I was like, okay, I know how to do that. I'll show you how easy it is because that shape can seem very, very complex. So again, what we're going to do, hit F on your keyboard. Go to desktop, create a desktop view. This is good enough. I'm going to take that blue color. Again, I'm just going to go and color pick it there, and this blue. And then we go O for a circle, right? Okay, so we got O, and then move it over to the edge a little bit. Okay, cool. And we get that green color. Yeah, that looks good. And then we're going to create another circle. I'm just going to move it down here. Okay, but now we get to the interesting bit. Is how do I create this other shape? How do I make that cool shape over there in the edge? And I have 2 of these. How do I do it? Now, do I go in here and get my pen tool and try to make a cool arc like that? And you know, now you've seen a pen tool, and you can play around with that. You know, is that what we would do? And then you change the fill. Be blue, right? It's like, oh, that doesn't take a lot to make that perfect cutout like they have there. So the way you do this is you select both your layers and you go to your selection tool. Again, you will only see those once you have multiple layers selected. And you want to go and select exclude selection, which is the last one. So what it's going to do is going to let you see parts of your layers and your shapes that don't like cross over, and what is in the middle will be again excluded or cut out. So you just click that button and boom, there you go. Very, very simple. And the thing I love about this is I can still double click to go into my group, and I can move this around to get the exact look that I want. It's kind of like that, and just move it to the edge. Again, every other tool still applies, so it needs to be a little bit bigger. Use my K tool to scale this back, hit V to kind of just move it back. And again, probably still needs to be a bit more like that, and then over, and so on and so on. Isn't that cool? And then the nice thing about this is, again, we can do R or the top navigation, make it look just like it. So it's just black, 880 pixels tall. And then listening is everything, it's just text. We know how to do text T, listening. Like for some reason, it looked like I spelled that wrong. Use your own text for this. Any typeface that you want is, create another one, everything. And you can work out on the spacing and so on and sizing. It's not perfect right now. Change it to that green color. So we got that T kind of underneath the S. Oop. And then again, the text is way too big. You can go down something like 96 maybe. A little bit closer, but not perfect. But then we have a button there that says get modify. So again, R for our height, something around like 48 to make that perfect pill shape, 24. And again, we can change that fairly easily. It's like get this, or forget what it says exactly, but why can't I spell? And let's just change this down like this. Not perfect, but no big deal because not really focus on the spacing too much because we can change this fairly quickly, right? And how do we do that? Select both layers, Shift A, gives you perfect spacing left and right. So maybe 88 pixels, padding top and bottom, maybe 16. Text in the middle is going to be that blue in that background. There you go. Pretty close within 5 minutes. Design looks pretty dynamic, looks pretty good. But again, if we really try to break it down to its basic shapes, use the K tool, make this a bit bigger. Yeah, you know, there isn't sometimes much to it. It's just that simplicity and just putting a little bit of thought and care into what we want. And then there's like a subheading there, which we all know how to do. More text here. There you go. So you can see how, again, bringing down some designs, learning from them can be super helpful. And sometimes the techniques are a lot simpler than we think. Just kind of like we did that blurring effect there. You know, sometimes it just looks more complicated than it is. But as we break down other designs, hopefully you'll start to feel more comfortable designing them yourselves and the more practice that you get. Again, super dynamic, super easy to do, just some very basic shapes. So, okay, cool. We'll leave it at that. Again, thanks again for people who shared. And you know, if you did want to, can still share maybe next time if you want to practice, you can share in the chat as well. But hopefully it was a good thing to practice here today and see how it all comes together. Okay, yeah, okay, cool. You found that helpful? Yeah, maybe we'll do that a little bit more next time. So that's good. I just feel we're getting close now. We've had a few classes, so hopefully giving you all time to practice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for that feedback. I'll lean into that a little bit more as we go through. You can practice because as you try it yourself and I'm here, you can reach out, unmute, or send a question in chat, and I'm always happy to help you. So I'm going to put everything we're learning into practice as we go through. Cool. All right. Well, thanks again. Thanks again for that feedback. Appreciate it. And yeah, enjoy your Tuesdays, and then I'll see you on Thursday. Have a good one, everyone.